Amazing grace is the sweetest sound that saved my life. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. It took my shame, it took my pain. My Jesus gave me his name. And now I reign with him. All my days I'll sing his praise. Everywhere that I go, everything that I do, all I see is grace. Everywhere that I go, everything that I do, all I see is grace. Grace, grace, grace.
I see grace.
Grace, grace, grace.
All I see is grace.
Grace, great grace.
I see grace.
Grace, great grace.
All I see is grace.
Oh. Amazing grace, amazing grace is the story of my life. It's not by power, it's not by might, it's by the Spirit of the Lord. It's not by hard work.
10 years down the road is a long walk. 10 years of unprecedented impact as Champions Royal Assembly. But with the man behind the pulpit, it's been 26 years in this journey and ministry. A long walk from grass to grace.
I am Joshua Iginla, the senior pastor of Champions Royal Assembly here, and this is our international headquarters here in Abuja. My story of ministry and conversion all began at the city of Jos.
The life and times of the Muslim barrack boy who hails from a kiddie state is characterized with phases of betrayal, rejection, frustration, and persecution. Brother Joshua Iginla started his Christian race in the city of Jos, Nigeria, after he was converted by an elderly woman.
My conversion is a strong one because I'm from a staunch Muslim family. My father named Lasisi Disu Iginla, and every one of us, from my eldest sister to the last, we're all Muslims. We have names like Raliatu, Rabiatu, Abdulhamid, Abdulaziz, Milikatu, Risikatu, Abdul Fatai, and etc.
Brother Joshua Iginla's conversion brought a lot of controversy in his immediate family. Being a Muslim, he was persecuted by his own parents and even disowned by his father for over 3 years.
My conversion didn't go down well with my father because he was not happy about the conversion. And then I lost a lot of friends because I was a very stubborn barrack boy. And some of them made jest of me, saying that they are sure that in due season I'm going to return back to my senses. But for my father, it was full of rejection and pain. I could remember my father throwing me out of the house in the middle of the night. And it was a painful experience. Curses were laid on me and I was treated like an outcast. My journey is painful. You know, when we say we are Muslim, some people think I'm just saying I'm a Muslim. No, I was doing ablution, praying. I was doing all the prayers. It was not as if It was a roadside Muslim, a staunch Muslim. There was no prayer I did not do. And in fact, my father's mindset and heartbeat was that as the time goes on, probably I can be a Malam and the rest of them. And it was strong on me, per se, very, very strong. With that, the rejection was bad. I can say my early faith in the Lord, it was not characterized on so much helpers. But I could remember that the fellowship, which was the Protestant arm of the military church, along the way between phase 2 to phase 1, 3 Ammo Division, Jos Rukuba Barak Cantonment, the fellowship of the youth fellowship was one of my succor. I was attending that fellowship. I will have to sneak down to the fellowship. Immediately after service on Sunday, by 4 p.m. we'll have the fellowship, and it lasts in 7. And then that was one of the places I received strength as a new convert. And of course, the Deeper Life Bible Study class was one part of the church that gave me strength. In phase 2, I was attending the Deeper Life Bible Church, their Bible study, having their handouts. Those were the 2 places I received succor from the men of God. The messages I learned then, one pastor at Debayo in Deeper Life was one person God was using to teach the word, and I was attending the Protestant church, the youth arm of the church. My conversion, the night I came back with the Bible, and I thought my father didn't see me, and not knowing that he actually had discussed with my other siblings, and they told him I went to church. And normally I hide my Bible, but that night, thinking that he has gone to bed, I came back on Sunday. It was around 9, because we do trek from phase 2. That's between phase 1 to phase 2. The church is located. We trek back home. So when I got back home and he got to see me, he was angry. First of all, what he did was to drag me in. He used a military belt to beat me up and broke my head. And I was bleeding, and he chased me out of the house. It was very painful. And I remember my father saying that I disown you, you are a bastard, you are a disgrace. And then I used to have a pastor who used to encourage me, and who used to come to the fellowship to minister. That night, I think around to 12, I had to run down to see him in order to get encouragement from him, to squat in his house. When he opened the door, to me that was the worst rejection I ever felt as a new convert, because this guy teaches love and talk about the second coming of Christ so strong that his teachings were part of my foundation in holiness. So when I knocked the door and he came out and I told him the story, my father chased me out and saw me bleeding. He just told me, I know how wicked your father is. I don't think I can ever allow you to stay here. I don't want to be locked up. I don't want anything. I don't want problem. And I said, please just allow me to squat. You won't even know that I came to your house. You just, that's how he slammed the door and told me, look, you can go. And I felt depressed. I remembered leaving the house of that pastor crying. My pains was no longer what my father did to me. My pains was what this pastor did to me. Now, if a man of God can get to this height of treating a new convert this way, that means this Christianity thing is a fake thing. And then I remember the Holy Spirit encouraging me that night, saying, son, if you want to last in this race, Christianity is a personal race. You know the power of a man on the wife. My mom was always behind my father, saying, please, can you just listen to your father? Although she wept the night I was leaving, mothers are precious. They will not want to lose their son, but she was behind my father. She was just saying, look, just adjust, renounce this thing, and follow your father. Whatever your father say, that's what you should do. And I could remember, I went to Ekwa Primary School, Jebubasa, Phase 1, to sleep in one of the class. And there were vigilante groups. In the quest to sleep there, they thought I was a thief. They followed me. They cracked their local gun. I started screaming, I'm not a thief. I'm not a thief. They said, what are you doing here? It was, before that, a dog harassed me and almost bite me. And that passed. They followed me, they cracked their gun. I would have died that night because I started screaming, no, I'm not a thief. I'm just looking for where to sleep. And the man asked me, why are you here? And I told him my story. So he said, look, this place you are staying is not too good. So he took me to one of the class where they were staying and said, okay, you stay here, but it's fully for this night. You find your level after this night. After that night, I squat with one of the vigilante, the one that actually cracked gun. He told me, okay, look, I'm an elderly person. I will see how I can follow you to your father. And when he took me home. I stayed in his house for the period of 2 weeks. And after that, we had issues. The issues was that I can no longer accommodate you. And I explained to him, look, I know my father. When the persuasion became so very heavy, 2 of them followed me. We went down to see if we could beg. My father insisted there's no way. That journey linked me to one of the fellowship member. It's now late. They call him Ibrahim Zaka. That's one of the fellowship member helped me. I stayed for some time before the issue of All Nation came up. The persecution lasted more than 3 years. And within the period of the persecution, I had an encounter. Then there was a free scholarship scheme that late Archbishop Idausa was doing to those converted Muslims who want to become a pastor. That took me to Freedom for All Nation. I was in Freedom for All Nation, but I didn't finish. I got there and saw another phase of life. Because my own take was that if you said you want to become a pastor, that means you're already born again and you're righteous. And it was in the dormitory, even though we had free scholarship, I saw that some pastors were stealing Bible, stealing foodstuff, stealing all manner of things. It was almost affecting my faith. And I couldn't take it any longer. I was depressed, and that's one point in time I felt like backsliding. That this Christianity thing, I don't think these people know what they are saying. Probably they are deceiving. But be as may be, the rugged faith of the message that first came from the elderly woman at the age of 70 was like a coal of fire in my heart, and that kept me moving. Yes, that mountain is behind Sergeant Quarters in Phase 2. And that mountain is where I draw my spiritual strength from. I actually buried my Bible when I was afraid of my father in a pulley bag and then polythene bag, and I kept it somewhere around a farm side, a farmyard close to the mountain. Anytime I get there, there's a sign I put there. I just remove, and I go on top of the mountain. There's a place we pray, and I pray there for a long time. In fact, I do sometime 21 days fasting. I pray. I do. Even when in the middle of that storm, that mountain became a place where I spent much time. And some of the things that is happening in my ministry, I received the prophetic word on that mountain. When all the ships were down, things became very rough. That was when I had issues of going back to my father's house. That linked me to when I met my sister January 19, then that year. She was half dead, and then my mother was crying, and then the experience of the conversion was very strong. And then my mother was crying, and I told them, I said, if you believe in Jesus, he can do this. That was the first. I came back home after so many years, and I met that scene. And that actually, my mother told me, look, anything you know you can do. I just told her, can you believe that Jesus can raise my sister and restore my sister back to life? My father was sitting down, and there were people trying to kind of pacify him, and the rest. I laid my hands on my sister. We used to call her Auntie Kose, and God revived her and brought her back to life. And that became a scene of another strong miracle that happened, and that brought a revolution to the whole family, and the conversion of my father and mother, and acceptance of my faith. And on that junction, my father was posted from 3 Ammo Division to Odogbo Barrack, and there was an exodus movement from Jess to Odogbo. That brought us to Odogbo Barrack. And by the time we got to Odogbo Barrack, the quest to start up a ministry came up clear, and we started like a joke.
As a barrack boy, Brother Joshua Iginla moved to Ibadan with the quest to get stronger grip on his ministry and a relief from struggle. But to his greatest surprise, the experience in Ibadan seemed to be worse than ever.
My start in ministry in Ibadan is painful, and the experience is bitter. Let me narrow myself to the Ibadan story. The burden for the ministry started in Ibadan. And that's where we started. We started in the Army Days Secondary School in the barrack, and we started Atmosphere of Power. This Atmosphere of Power was just like an interdenominational ministry. It was not really per se a church. We're using a classroom, then people from the barrack, they gathered.
Driven by strong passion for the work and ministry, Brother Joshua Iginla started a fellowship center.
This Army Days Secondary School, where Papa started from, and the first fellowship begins from this place, and the fellowship is called Atmosphere of Power, where we run the fellowship on Saturdays by 4 p.m. This is where we run the fellowship, and I would like us to go inside and see the classes where the fellowship is being run.
Amazing grace is the sweetest sound.
This is the first place that Papa used for the fellowship called Atmosphere of Power. And this fellowship is run every Saturday by 3 p.m. In this place, you can see how it is. And that is this where the move started from, where people come together, 10, 20, we come together to pray and seek the face of God. In this place, power flows of a truth. That was where I knew that this man, our father, Brother Joshua Iginla, is truly called by God. I could remember some experience right here in this same hall. In this hall, the first deliverance I've ever seen in my life. When I got born again, the first deliverance I've ever seen in my life happened in this place, where a sister who was possessed, Papa picked her and deliverance was conducted on her, and she was rolling like a snake on the ground. As a young believer, I was shocked. Then I know of a truth. Our father, Brother Joshua Iginla, is a man of God. People come here, he gives prophets. Then there was nothing. There was nothing. In fact, if you see him at that time, you'll be discouraged. But because of the grace on the head of our father, Brother Joshua Iginla, people come in and power flows. The first Bible school Papa ever run, the first students that Papa ever run, then as Overcomers Prevailing School of Ministry, Upsom, started in this hall. And I happened to be among the first students that Papa raised in the Bible school. And this is where Papa would teach us, and he taught us some things, and right here we practicalize it. And then we're seeing the move of God, and the power of God was really following. I could remember there's a program we had here, and a lady who was possessed, when Papa was conducting the deliverance, she had to run out from the hall and enter the bush outside. We entered the bush outside and start pursuing the girl, but she ran away. But we thank God that the experience was a good one.
A challenge that I don't wish my enemy to go through, because first, when we started in the barrack, I was seen as a riffraff that does not know what he is doing, because we take drums from one block to the other, from Signal to Garrison, from Kodo, and I'll follow them. And I was with a lot of youths, they follow me, we clamp our hands, people come from the block, and then we go for village. My understanding about ministry was not per se for money or offering, it was just only just to preach the gospel. And the issue of going to farm, we beg, we look for farm work, then we get it, and I take my team, we make the money, then we go to do crusade. The excitement is when we get to the village, we minister to souls, and souls get born again. I get excited. We come back sharing the amount of souls that were saved, and the response, of course, sick people were healed, blind see, miracles happened. But the excitement of seeing villagers giving their life to Christ, we were having interpreter, and it was something else.
From the school fellowship in the barrack, it moved to Hope International School outside the barrack, and still retained the name Overcomers Prevailing Ministry, OPEM. In this primary school was birthed the first set of Brother Joshua Iginla's Bible School graduates, who became first pastors in the ministry.
And then we moved to OPEM. We call it OPEM, O-P-E-M, Overcomers Prevailing Evangelical Ministry. And we started the church in Hope International, Yawiri. And we're using a school, a classroom, which I was told now it has now become a living place where people are living. We're using one of the classrooms. And then we have a proprietress, and we had to beg, we plead for her to allow us to stay there to use the Hope International School. We're using that school. It's a nursery and primary school. We use the place, and then that class cannot even take 100 people. Cannot take 100 people. I think the minimum that class can take is 50. Our maximum is 50, and then we are not even up to 50. I think we are between the range of 20, 23, 25, 30. And when we have our anniversary, then we now have maybe close to 50, 60, 70, and that's a big crowd. In fact, we celebrate. We didn't have a drum set. There was nothing like drum set. There was nothing like a keyboard. We used to rent a local drum set in the back there in the Iwo Road. It's just a local one that is prepared. And whenever we have that drum set, the praise and worship and the power of God will come down very well. We celebrate the move of God. The church was not too big. Just a few fractions of people, and we had cases of members making vow. Our highest tithe then was 1,000 naira tithe. And that man, when he gives the tithe, he will so much suppress me and intimidate me that sometimes we have to visit him. We have to use visitation to pay for that tithe.
Wow. See how life flies and things have changed. This used to be Hope International School, where Papa started from, with the name OPEM, meaning Overcomers Prevailing Evangelical Ministry. The first service was held right here in January 2001, and I could remember that service. It was an awesome experience. And during that time, Papa used to minister with the whole of his heart. And he never mind the number of people that attended the service. He will preach as if he's talking to thousands of people. Sometimes he will come to church and we just meet like 3 or 4 persons. But yet, you see the zeal, the way he ministers with the whole of his heart. This particular class was the class where we used, when Papa taught us on a subject called neology. And in the school, Amide Secondary School, where we used for our atmosphere of power, after teaching us neology, in this same class, we came here, the 7 now pastors came here to practicalize it on their knees. For 7 hours we prayed on our knees, because that was what we learned from our father. And this is the house of the prof that was talking to us that we don't know what we are doing. But today the God of champion has proved himself strong.
The church, out of strong persecution and financial constraint, later moved to Ojuri Akobo.
My ministry have received a lot of resistance and attack from the beginning, and it has been very, very challenging and tasking.
Wow. Days flies and things have changed. This is the place our father Rajeshu Iginla started his church, and it was an heavy hill then, a very big hill. He had to call his members after we moved from Hope International School. We had to contact the soldiers and they gave us this place, and in this place it was an hill. Our Papa called us and we started digging. We dig and dig to this level. We now built the church, and it was not easy. This was the place that everybody proved his calling. Papa, the members, and every other person never look at himself as if he's the founder of the church. Him himself dug the ground with shovel, with digger. Everybody carried a pan to dig the ground, to bring it to level, because we don't have money to give laborers, so we make ourselves the laborers. And after that we look for money. We manage to erect plywood, erect a skeleton, and like that, I could remember that the first bundle of zinc that we used, it was somebody who gave it to us, gave us 2 bundles, and that 2 bundles, after we used it, it was not even half. It didn't cover half, but we had to start fellowshipping like that. It was a very terrible experience. In this ground, this is where we call the Ojuri Akobo. Each time you hear Papa talking about Ojuri Akobo, this is the Ojuri Akobo, where the church stayed for 7 years. 7 years of hard labor, 7 years of hardship, 7 years of struggling. It wasn't an easy experience. In fact, this particular spot is the altar. We don't have money to raise block for the altar. We have to dig sand and gather the sand to make it the altar. We now use rug to cover it. But now the structure has become something else. You know, it was not block, it was plank. It was plank, but because of the evacuation of the church, it has become something else. And not only that, sometimes if rain is falling, we are in the church, rain will be beating us. And sometimes what we use to sit down is this light wood that if you don't sit well, you will fall. And what Papa did was, because we don't have money to buy plank to cover the whole body, he now had to use nylon.
I am Pastor Joshua Iginla. We started in a very small place at Akobo, Ibadan. At least we started with a plank and a roofing sheet. So we were using plank and a plank window with zinc. During rainy season, if there is a heavy rainfall, before we come to the service, the rain will enter inside the building, maybe through the door, through the window, or some leaking roof. So with the ladies there, we will look for broom, sweep everything, use packer, pack everything, clean the bench. Even the bench too is like it's like all those wood that the carpenter has rejected. We use this, just nail it, use it to sit down. In the ministry, I was a choir then. We have a lot of sisters that were working together, men. We have soldiers among us. We have civil workers among us too. But since we are so raw, but we are putting it.
And if you look behind, there is a train road there. And that train road, sometimes if Papa is praying in the church, we have to ask the ushers to guide the people so that they will not fall and cross to the other side. It was not an easy one. It was not an easy one. The second year anniversary, we did it in this place. The third year, the fourth year, the fifth year, the sixth year, and the seventh year was done in this place. And the unique thing about this place was, there was a time that Papa was ministering, doing the ordination, and when he was preaching, and God gave him a sign, we saw literal smoke coming out from his head. Literal smoke coming out from his head. And after the service, I think two of us went to meet him. I know I was also there. I told him, I said, Papa, when you were preaching, we saw smoke coming out from your head. He said that was one of the signs that God gave to him.
The struggle for survival in Ojuri Akobo became so tense that Brother Joshua Iginla, though a senior pastor, had to carry blocks just to generate little income that would keep the church moving.
There was a time where I had to go to a block industry to carry blocks, to do block work, and my members, they saw me and I was hiding my face from them. I hid my face from them, and one of my daughter, she said, no, that's Papa. They were arguing, that's Papa, no, that's not Papa. It was a shameful thing, and it was better I did that than to steal or lie or choke my hands into things that were not. When people see our glory today, they think we just arrived. We have told ourselves we will not eat on Jezebel's table. We will not allow the enemy to manipulate us irrespective of our poverty. I kept saying this, that if I did not backslide then, I don't know what would take me away from God.
Meanwhile, his living condition was nothing to write home about.
That one-room apartment, it's you know, we can smile about it now, but the experience, it's bad. You know, I was staying in that one-room apartment with my son, Pastor Emeka Clement, and Pastor Moses. I had chains of pastors like Pastor Emeka Clement, Pastor Moses, Pastor Shegun, and I had Pastor Sunday Adamson, and the rest of them were my sons. And they lived with me in that one-room apartment. We had a bed. The bed is not as if we had a foam. I actually packed my mother's wrappers, the ones she was not using, to form a Vita foam. And by the side, the right side of the room, I put a plank, an iron rod from an iron bender. That was what I used as my wall hanger to hold my clothes together. And the experience in that one room, we fold ourselves and stay in that one room. And being that I could not pay just 300 naira for an house rent, which is just approximately maybe 6,000 naira a year, I have an international stove. That stove is very terrible. Each time I light it, the fire comes boop, 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 boop. You know, to quench the stove is prophetic too, because I have to pour much water. My landlord will come and Pashito, Ufejole me. May so rest in perfect peace, because Atlanta he has died, because that's the first house before I moved to the second house. And it will be a big argument, and the smoke from that stove will be entering everybody's eyes, because it was an old stove. And when I mean an old stove, I had to use 3 stones to be able to keep it, because the hold to the pot had already been destroyed. So I had to put stone on the 3 part to hold the pot down. Everything. The experience was bad. That was one of the experience I had that was terrible bad. I had eba, gari. There was no soup, and there was no money. I had a woman who was selling soup, selling food around me. Poverty can make you have all manner of wisdom. So I went to meet her. I told her to sell food for me, and normally we tell them without. When I say without, that means without a meat. And she sold this, put the soup in the plate and every other thing. I took the plate, I turned it all around like that. And I told her, no, I don't like this. This is not what I want. This is not what I want. She got angry with me. She took the plate, collected it from my hand, and she turned the soup back to the pot and gave me. Then I took that empty plate that had some soup stain on it and went back home. That was one of the experiences in my life that I felt that my poverty was bad. I wept.
Mo ti wà níbí láti bí ọdún mẹ́tàdínlógún sẹ́yìn tí mo ti ń gbé nínú ilé ìpè pàwọn pastor Joshua Iginla tí wọ́n gba room níbí báyìí. Wọ́n tó bí 4 nígbà yẹn tí wọ́n wà níbẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn àbúrò wọn tí wọ́n jọ ń ṣiṣẹ́ Olúwa ní ìgbà yẹn. Wọ́n bí mo ti ṣe mọ̀ wọ́n nígbà náà wọ́n jẹ́ èèyàn jẹ́jẹ́ tán dẹ̀ ṣe súnmọ́. Ó jẹ́ kébì àti wọ́n use mọ́ra wa tí wọ́n pa máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ dáadáa ní gbogbo ìgbà yẹn. Nítorí pé ìgbà tí wọ́n rí sí ọwọ́ mi, wọ́n máa gbé suit fún mi. Mi ní tailor tí mo bá wọn rán sọ nígbà yẹn. Tí wọ́n gbàgbọ́ dẹ̀ bá wọn rán sọ bí 2 mẹ́ta tán láìkí wọ́n tún bá àwọn àbúrò wọn náà wá tí gbogbo náà máa ń bá wọn rán sọ nígbà yẹn. Nítorí tó bí mo ṣe máa ń bá wọn rán sọ nígbà yẹn náà, kò sí pé bóyá ara dẹ̀ wọ́n láti bóyá mo rówó gidi gbà lọ́wọ́ wọn. Ṣùgbọ́n asáhùn faraṣe nípa pé mo rí ọmọlúwàbí tó dẹ̀ ṣe súnmọ́ lára wọn. Ọmọ tí máa bá wọn ṣiṣẹ́ nígbà yẹn náà wọ́n máa ń jẹ mí lówó tí máa gba suit lọ́wọ́ 2,000 naira. So 2,500 naira mo sì máa bá wọn ṣe nìyẹn. Wọ́n á dẹ̀ gbé wá ní urgent bí wọ́n fẹ́ lò kan níjọ́ Sunday, wọ́n á gbé wá níjọ́ Thursday. Ó yẹ pé late hour la máa ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn ní òru mọ́júmọ́ tí wọ́n á dẹ̀ rí gbà láti lò fún program tí wọ́n fẹ́ sí church nígbà yẹn. Gbogbo ìgbà yẹn náà wọn kì í rówó san tán fún mi. Asá máa ń ṣe níṣe pé bóyá bí ẹ̀mí Ọlọ́run ṣe darí wọn sọ́dọ̀ mi tàdẹ̀jọ́ wà pẹ̀lú ìfẹ́ so mo wá jẹ́ kí n máa ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn fún wọn ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ orúkọ náà jẹ́ mi gbà yẹn bọ̀ tẹ́mi ò tí ó lè máa tó sọ pé bí a mo lè gbé lọ but nípa pé wọ́n ṣe jẹ́ ọmọlúwàbí èmi náà fojú gbogbo àbúrò wọn náà wọ́n nice wọ́n kó.
I had case of betrayal where sons whom I have raised up came back. I will not want to mention it. Who I raised up came back and met me in the one room, and he told me, he said, "Poopa." He was supposed to call me Papa. He said, "Poopa, so you are still here." He parked his car outside and said, "So you are still here." You repeated it again, "Poopa, Poopa, Poopa." And that's one bad experience I also had that I will never forget, because he left the house and I knelt down by my bed and I wept. And I told God, "God, I'm not asking you to make me rich as a preacher. I'm asking you to give me a means to live my life in order to be able to bless lives." Of course, I wasn't lazy. I did security job. I did teaching job. I carried blogs. And part of my experience, I went to Nigerian depot 4 times. 4 good times. About 38, 37, and 40 intake. I went to Nigerian airport, a depot, and I even shined my hair, and I'd already started training until God intervened. So my story is not just a story of a man who just came to ministry overnight. The experience was bitter because of the house I lived in. The house I lived in, it's a 1-room apartment. And this 1-room apartment, I stayed there for 7 good years. I couldn't afford to pay my landlord house rent. There was a bad well that you can even see spirogyra on it. And that was the water I was drinking. We have a bathroom that was eventually the restroom for the landlady, both the landlord and the tenant. What I mean the bathroom is that very smallish bathroom. It's in that bathroom when we enter, they must have defecate and put at the corner. And then you close your nose just to take your bath. And when I mean 1 room, the 1 room was so bad because there was not even a ceiling. I don't know if there's a ceiling now, but there was not even a ceiling, and the window was bad. And I spent almost all through the 7 years, sometime in the middle of the night, I go to the bush to defecate. All through for the 7 years. When I'm pressed, I go to the bush.
Brother Joshua Iginla, for 7 years, used a bush path as a defecating place.
This is the place our father-in-law, Brother Joshua Iginla, normally come to excrete those days. And in this place, he excreted in this place for 7 years. Let me just give an illustration of how, because you know our father is very smart. Sometimes when he's walking sharply. And let me just give a little illustration. What he used to do those days, he would just come and just look. He will look by the light, look by the ref. If there's nobody, just pull his sneaker and bend down and begin to do justice. You know, those days we used to call it tight. The reason why we call it tight is because we don't want people to know what we normally want to go and do. If we tell somebody we want to go and shit or we want to go and excrete, the person will know what we want to go. But as men of God, we can just, within ourselves, we just say, well, my brother, I want to go and pay my tithe. So they will understand the prophecy that you are giving.
It was bad that sometimes I used Omo to take my bath. It was bad that even my landlady, when they saw me sometimes, they have compassion for me.
His house rent, though very meager, he couldn't pay. He was always associated with debt, and that made people mocked and ridiculed him all through those trying times.
For some of my landlady, they call her Yaleko. She sells Eko. I used to collect Eko from her I collect from her on credit. And Sometimes when I don't pay, she will harass me. There was a little breakthrough that came in. I moved from my first house to the second house in Ali Gongo area. And then there's my landlord they call Baba Dudu. That one is a wonderful landlord. I can't say say that man was both positive and negative wire. But it's a wonderful man. What I say is a wonderful man is that I couldn't pay house rent too. Even when I got there, I couldn't pay house rent. It was terrible. Sometimes the man we give an encouragement, but you know when it comes to the issue of house rent, there's no amount of encouragement you can give. I could remember when I'm coming back home tiptoeing because of my landlord, and I come back in the night, and I remember the woman will blow whistle. Then once she blow whistle, she has signaled my landlord have come. Then my landlord will just come. When I'm about to open the door, she say, "Pashito, oh niso le me." I will not say that. You say you are a man of God. How can you do this? Is the Spirit of God in you? I will kneel down and start begging him that I will pay. You say, no, you are not a good pastor. I will beg and beg. The experience was bad. That even there was a provision store that was close to me, I was also owing money for credit. Credit, when I mean owing credit, I will dodge, I will follow through the back door to come in. The experience is bad. Even me, I don't even believe that there can be a future with that experience.
Due to intense hardship and struggle, 6 pastors left and abandoned Brother Joshua Iginla as they could no longer endure the suffering.
There were even some of my pastors who even told me practically that one of them told me, said, Papa, if your life is like this, what confidence do we have, we that are following you in ministry? Does it show that we have a hope if your life is like this? And because it was true, my life was bad. 90% reasons why most of my early pastors left me, it wasn't because they didn't love me. It was because my poverty was bad and there was no hope. In fact, I was living on them at a particular stage. I was living on them. There was a time one of my sons, Pastor Emeka, will come back. He will do, we used to call it bra, and that is block work. Because of the way the machine vibrates, so they call it bra work. So you come back, you will bring money to me and say, Papa, can you just take this? It became a pain because most of them could not hold it. There was one day my landlady wife abused me. Pastor Oleje, how can you say you are a pastor? She alone will re-attend Jenny because it was that is God not seeing the kind of suffering you are going through? Because it was so bad that I have to carry speakers, carry anything. In fact, I was the usher, I was the sanctuary cleaner at the early stage of the ministry.
After a series of prayer and fasting, God finally spoke to Brother Joshua Iginla. Go to Abuja, the capital city of Nigeria, a land where I will establish and settle you.
It was on that quest, when the pressure became high, God began to tell me, look, I've told you this is not the place you prosper. God opened a scripture to me. He told me that I told Abraham, leave your father and mother house to a land that I will show you, that your allocation has expired in Ibadan. The place I will prosper you is in Abuja. And that is how I borrowed the money that took me from Ibadan to Abuja.
10 years ago, Brother Joshua Iginla arrived the capital city of Nigeria with just 250 naira to Beth Champions Royal Assembly, and in the living room of Brother Joshua Iginla, an excluded house in Millionaires Quarter, Biaji, Kubwa, Abuja, 5th of November 2006, the first service was held with over 8 members in attendance.
I landed in Duse Alaji. And Duse Alaji, I had a friend who was part of my prayer band while I was in youth fellowship in Jos. We used to call him brother, began to pray, oh, began to pray. While you're in the vestry, that is what you say, began to pray, began to pray. And his name is Reverend Joseph Yusuf Aruna. He's the founder of Gospel of Grace Ministry. I stayed in his house I landed in his house and I was sleeping on his 3-seater. That pastor was better than me, was so much blessed that his 3-seater too was very rich that there were no foam, because the foam of the 3-seater has gone down. So I had to be sleeping on the 3-seater, and I stayed with him while I was in Duse Alaji with him, and I assisted the work. I became like an assistant pastor to him, because it was preferable I stayed in Abuja than to stay in Ibadan, because the storm was so much. And by this time, I'd already run away from my landlord, because I could not pay the second landlord. I could not pay the house rent and every other thing. I left the property and ran away. And at that time, while I was with him, I learned that majority of my pastors, 7 of my pastors, they left me. They've all broke out. They said they are tired. You know, when the shepherd is stricken by storm, everybody too will go away. I will not so much blame them, because if you see my condition in the early stage of my life, if you are not, even though you are genuine, you are called of God, it's an hopeless situation. Because even me, it was hopeless to me humanly. It was the prophetic word of God that kept me going. So I stayed with him for some time, and after some time, we had little fracas with my friend in Duse Alaji. Fracas was, it's normal, and I kept telling him what God told me, and what God told me, it was my conviction, and that led me. I went down to Global Light Assembly, Buhari. And imagine a general overseer applying to work under a ministry. Because I told myself it is better I'm in the system of the ministry than to backslide, or than to help God, or than to dip my hands into occultism or anything that is not of God. That is better I remain. It's better I stay under a pastor than to backslide. So I was in Global Light Assembly. I pastored. I have the record there in Buhari. The church is still there. Reverend Benga, a wonderful man with a good heart. To me, that man taught me one part of love that has to do with giving. I feel the journey of life for a great man of God, God make you to encounter some people. That man is an apostle of love. Oh, Champion Royal Assembly is a sweet part of the story. While I was in Buhari, God started speaking to me. It is time to raise me a champion generation. That your first name is overcomers. You have overcome now. You want to use that name, because now I want you to raise me a champion assembly. And what happened was that I was not willing. I was willing to stay with Reverend Benga. But what God did was that there was a strong wind of pressure from everywhere. He called me one day and said, look, young man, I know God has called you. After 1 or 2 things, God spoke to me. Look, do not betray this man, because I've given you a call. You know you are a set man. He didn't know that I was a senior pastor. I didn't tell him that part, that I had a ministry. I just came and hid myself under him. And then I now confessed to him that, look, I have a vision and a ministry. And that gave birth to the issue of, I was living in room and parlor. And a wonderful man. He said, okay, if that is it. He got home, told his wife, women have a way of influencing their husband. I want to believe the wife told him, look, there's no need to keep this pastor around you. Let him go. So he released me. I didn't have money. There was no money. There was nothing. I did not know where to start from, how to move my family, where do I go from. I was in a big, deep dream when I had a vision of coming to Biaji, go to Biaji. In all honesty, Reverend Benga he's an angel. Why I said so is that he came to meet me one early the hour of the morning, called me and said, look, I love you so much. I know you have a leading of God. I'm led to give you this 70,000. Go and start. But please don't let my wife know about this. I took that money. It was that money I came in with Pastor Obiora, who was just visiting me. We started looking for a house. And then I met with the first agent after God led me. There was no house that could. We were looking for a house, not a house to stay, but a house that can serve like a ministry base. And I met one Chooks. The Chooks told me, look, there was a house somewhere that you can use, but it's abandoned because thieves are disturbing the owner of the house. It was then in Milonia Quarter in the bush. I told him, fine, there's no problem that even when thieves come to meet me, except they want to steal my Bible. So that was how we got that place. And then we used that place and I started. The day we packed in on Friday. On Saturday, I weed the whole of the place because there was grass. On Sunday, we started clamping and we started champions. We were just 4 in number that started champions.
My name is Pastor Obiora Honora. I have the privilege to be the first member of Champions Royal Assembly Incorporated. And this is where the church started about 5th November 2006. You can take a look. We had our first service here November 5th 2006. Can we just step inside and see inside of the compound very well? So this is the place man of God was staying that time, and this is exactly where the church started from. This is his sitting room, the entrance to the 2-bedroom flat he rented about 7 years ago. Already somebody is occupying the place. There is no how to enter the place, but this is where we were using for the prophetic night 2006 and partly 2007, before the church temporary tent was erected here.
I faced a lot of resistance. Some people laughed at me, some group of women. I remember when we did the first fellowship clamping and because there was no curtain, nothing. Some group of women, they passed and they were laughing. I came out from the gate, they started laughing. When I just came out, they started laughing. They laughed and said, well, church don't start here again. They said these people who are very hungry looking for money. It was shameful, very, very shameful. I was even passing the 3rd week of the service. I was passing and they were talking. That what kind of wonders will not end time pastors? People, anybody will start. There was not even a banner. There was no tambourine. In fact, the first offering we used our Bible to collect it, and the house was a football field, and that was how we started Champion Royal Assembly.
The landlady of the house was no longer comfortable with church activities operating in her house as the church began to grow and overflow. The church had to move to a temporal tent.
In fact, when we started using the house, we started having challenge with my then landlord in Millionaire's Quarters, and we pleaded with him and the wife. When we started having overflow, I went to meet the man. He permitted me to use the outside to raise a little tent in the compound to use, and that after some time we'll be paying lease for that, which we agreed. We erected that tent. We only used that tent on Sunday. The next Monday, the wife came down to the house and fought me, abusing me, insulting me in the presence of so many people who were around, gathered. I couldn't talk. I covered my face in shame. I entered into the house and I kept quiet. When the husband came in, I said, your husband was the one. The man denied me and said he didn't say so. Apparently the woman was in charge. She was in charge. So they pulled down the whole structure down, the one we raised. And then passed a decree that we should not use that house for church any longer. That necessitated where we had to look for one of the members who borrowed us one of his land in Millionaire's quarters. Then we erected a tent and we used a sack of cement bag and the rest to cover the tent. And we started the church. And the church started growing.
The owner of the building commanded that we should demolish the whole place, leave the place and look for another place. And by the special grace of God, one of our members then gave us another land here where we pitched the tent very close by here. When we left to this place, when the owner of the house said we should leave our house, because the church actually started in the sitting room of Papa, Brother Joshua Iginla now, to this place. This is where the church was located the second time from his residence to this place. In the month of February 2007, we came to this place. This place was bush, was a waste disposal area.
One of the things that exploded this ministry was the death of Mama Twins. She dropped dead in the church, and everybody in the church, virtually, I was ministering. They left the church, they were all telling people that come and see, somebody have died. In fact, it became a gossip that's why we don't trust this young generation church. People who say they are men of God, and at the tail end of the whole thing, they are killing people for rituals. It was in the quest of praying for that woman. She came back to life. The news broke throughout the whole Kubwa. The next Sunday, the church blew up. But as soon as the church started growing, some members from the church entered the man who gave us the land, that I want to take over the land. So he gave us notice. He was a member, but he gave us notice and said, I have to quit that land. One thing led to another. I have preached that. We got the other side of the land we got, and God brought the breakthrough, and we bought the place. The glory started changing levels.
Within 1 year, God had blessed the church with a land of her own, and the church moved to its own property at number 1 Ikolaba Street, behind Deeper Life, Biagin, Kubwa, Abuja. The growth the church experienced at this point was geometric and unprecedented, as great grace, signs and wonders was experienced here. The lame walked, the blind see, captives were set free, the barren received babies, and every service was a celebration of miracles. The crowd overflowed, and visitors from other countries worshipped with the church, and everyone felt this was the glory.
That breakthrough was the turning point of my life. I've shared the testimony how I prayed for a senator, and before I prayed for this man, he sent people to come and tell me to come and see him. I was so excited to go, and I was very happy. One of the secretary, and God spoke to me and said, don't go anywhere. And I didn't hear from them for more than 1 or 2 months, and I felt bad with myself that I should have responded to the call. Then he made up his mind to come, and he came to that bush where I was living to see me in the night. Then I prayed for him, and I gave him the prophetic word. And what was the problem? This guy was menstruating like a woman. Every 28 days he passed out blood. For 3 days it lasts. And when he went to America, they were trying to use him for experiment. He ran back, and God used me to tell him. Then he brought out money. After I finished the prophecy, I prayed for him and told him that he is free. I will never forget. That money was new churches, and that was the first time for me to see that kind of money. And the Holy Spirit told me, do not collect that money. And I remember my hands were shaking. And I told him, and I said, look, if it were for me, I'd love to collect this money. But the Spirit of God said I should not collect. I was reporting the Holy Spirit to him. And he watched me, said, okay, he left. He left. I was so depressed throughout the whole night. And I was complaining to the Holy Spirit that we need money. This money, after all, I won't use it for myself. I will use it for the gospel. What will you? Then the Holy Spirit told me something. That if you had collected that money, there will be no healing for that man. That he is not paying for the healing. I am the healer. That sin passed. After several period of time, he called back and told me he wanted to see me. That was about 4 or 5 months, 3 to 4 months, only to discover that he has been healed. And those menstrual cycle for 28 days was no longer there. He brought money in a little Ghana must go. That was the first time in my life to see that kind of money. I didn't know it was money. He just dropped it for me and told me, open it, and I saw money. My body started shaking. I grabbed it before the Holy Spirit would say that, don't collect it. And that was the turning point. Because he left, I was so excited. I wept. I rolled before God. It pays to wait upon the Lord. It pays to stand and believe God that he can do all things. It was in the midst of all this that my miracle started. In fact, that money gave birth to the first land where we built Champion Royal Assembly today. The glory started changing levels. When the glory started changing levels, some pastors who do not know me in Kubwa thought I came overnight.
And the Lord God spoke again to his servant, brother Joshua Iginla, build me a city, a place of worship, a place where I shall tabernacle with my people, a city of signs and wonders.
City of Wonder vision has been there since 1996. The Lord spoke to me and I gave me the vision. I have them in my prophetic book. I never knew that it's going to come this time, but I have seen this vision of this church, how it looked like, and the Lord told me I will gather the world here for you to see. And when it was time, we started having overflow in the other church. The Lord said, now it is time. God gave me a vision of where this church will be, and then I announced it. It may interest you to know that when I announced the City of Wonder, people thought I had the money on ground. No. But when there is a vision, there is a provision. And we started the journey. We never envisaged building an 80,000 capacity church. We just wanted to build a place that can accommodate people. It is in the doing that we discover that the architect had a big... in fact, I had to quarrel with the architect. What kind of drawing is this? Do you want to kill me? I said you should actually draw a big church, but I didn't say you should draw a church of this magnitude. I got angry, I left him, I got home. In the night, the Lord spoke to me and said, that which I have implanted into him, that he has given you, you must not reduce a dime from it. That was how this building started, like a vision. Some people are thinking we are competing some great leaders. No, 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 no. It is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but it's of God that showeth mercy. Anything done out of competition cannot stand the test of time. You will not even be able to complete it, because this is just a vision of 10 years. How do you build this kind of capacity? Except the Lord be with you. If it is done out of strife competition, God will not allow the resources to come. We have ministries who have been there 19, 25 years trying to do what we are doing now and cannot even finish from just the foundation level. And yet, in less than 1 year, 13 months, we did this without struggling, borrowing money from any bank or any pressure from anybody.
On the 3rd of January 2016, Champions Royal Assembly comfortably celebrate the world's largest auditorium, an 80,000 capacity church with world-class facilities, an edifice equipped with 12 lifts, 8 escalators, highly equipped medical center, 400 restroom, etc. All this with no exaggeration, and the church moved from glory to glory.
You know, when I hear people say, how did you got money from? Not bankrolled by any bank, not even a white man, not even anybody from America, like what other gospel would do, begging money. We didn't beg any money from anywhere. The money came from inside. And because we have a lot of things we do, that God has given us money. Not even a president, that some people will say, one president. I have sons who are presidents. I have sons who are governors. I have sons who are ministers. I have sons who are senators. I have sons who are very wealthy. Not even them. Not even a president can hit their hands on their chest and say, we sponsor you to build City of Wonder. Although God has given me gift of men, both from the Arab world, everywhere, oil gurus, blessed people that are very blessed, that are my sons. But God had blessed me. And you see, I can't just but say thank you, because we didn't owe a dime, not even a bag of cement are we owing somebody. Instead, our workers are owing us our work. I'll simply say from grace to grace. Just the grace. Grace is the unmeritable favor of God that brings a man out of obscurity. God dealing with a man not because he's qualified, but qualifying the unqualified. Showing mercy and abundance for a man. I felt that God so much loved me. He has used me to show to the world that you don't need to belong to some cabal in ministry to get to the top. If he is behind you. I respect fatherhood and I respect fathers all over the world. And I believe that God places men to be there before you. But the truth of the whole matter is that there's an erroneous and wrong notion that everybody must come through certain cabal before they rise up. In my own case, God has done my own this way, so that nobody, not even a prophet in Nigeria or a bishop or an archapostle, can take glory over my life. It is just the glory over from God, that God did what he has to do for me and took me to this. In fact, I was rejected by top ministers. I tried my best to submit. You might be amazed that I'm submitting to the Poyongicho's ministry, and then you say, why? It wasn't as if we didn't try in the beginning to submit to some fathers of the gospel in Nigeria. We tried, but because we were not like this, we were not accepted. We were rejected. In fact, I remember staying from morning till evening in one of the great men of God I will never want to mention, frustrated by even the sons under him and everything. But I give God thanks that it didn't happen, because today some men would have taken the glory. God allowed it to happen so that I can become a letter of love to some generation that are coming, that minus men plus God, things are possible. My life is a typical example of grace to grace. And we are just in the grace primary one. We've not just started. I feel that the glory is just about to unfold itself. Like I said to the church, this is not the vision that God has given me. This is just the primary school vision. Somebody asked me, do you think there's something beyond City of Wonder? And I said, yes. I'm already on it, and I'm already dreaming it, and I'm already planning it, because the real vision I have, this is just the stepping stone of the vision. Indeed, it's a story from grace to grace.
The grace of our Lord Jesus, the love of the Father, and the sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit abiding with us all the days of our lives and forever.